What's going on, guys? Kyle here from Above the Rim, back with another video. We're looking ahead once again into the team's futures this offseason and what to expect from them. Today's target, the New York Knicks. The Knicks have been struggling to find consistent success throughout the years, making their third consecutive playoffs this past season, which hasn't happened since 2013. They also made their first conference finals since 2000, making huge strides for the franchise and rejuvenating the fan base with hopes for another championship, something they haven't achieved since 1973. Hopes are high for them these next couple of seasons, so this offseason specifically is going to be a big one for a multitude of reasons. They're looking to fill out their bench to provide some help while the starters get some rest, and they're also now looking for new leadership after firing their fifth-year coach, Tom Thibodeau, just days after being eliminated from the playoffs. I think this decision was a little premature, but it shows urgency and commitment from President Leon Rose and owner James Dolan to help this team win it all, which I like. So let's take a dive into what this offseason might hold for the city that never sleeps. To start, I gotta go over the boring stuff, so if you want to skip ahead to where I start talking about whether the players will stay or go, I don't blame you. The luxury tax for the 2025 and 26 season is projected to be at $187.9 million. While the first apron will be set at $195.9 million, and the second at $207.8 million. As of right now, the Knicks sit just under the first apron with a projected salary of $194.3 million. However, this is without Payne, Precious, Wright, and Shamet being guaranteed money, and that's basically their whole bench. The problem is, at least from what we saw throughout the season in the playoffs, is that they're not deep enough. Sure, you can blame some of that on Tibbs, but they need a bench either way, whether this new coach is good or not. The starting five takes up an estimated $172 million. Add Mitch and Deuce, and that already puts them $2 million over the luxury tax at $189.3 million. This leaves them with about $6 million to spend while staying under the first apron, and roughly $18 million to stay under the second. Now, it's time for the fun part. Let's talk about who will stay and go. To start, we got Brunson, the most clutch player in the NBA this season and arguably the best free agent signing in franchise history.
What else happened? Oh my god.
Captain, Jalen Brunson, born to play basketball.
Since joining the team in 2022 and 23, he's taken them to 3 straight playoffs, making the Eastern Conference semifinals 3 times, and this year the Eastern Conference Finals. Not only is he the best player on the team and a generational talent, but he also took one of the biggest pay cuts in NBA history, giving up $113 million. That's roughly $28.3 million he's missing out on for these next 4 years. This allowed the team to have more flexibility with the roster, and just to put things into perspective, he'll make $34.9 million in 2025 and 26, while OG will make $39 and Cat $53. He made the All-Star team last year and this year, helping the Knicks to a 178 and 98 record the past 3 years. He's played 12 less games this year at 65, his points per game down by 2.7 at 26, although his field goal percentage is up by 0.9 at 48.8%. That's all on 18.5 attempts, which went down by 2.9. Perhaps the reason for that is the makeup of the new team and his evolution as a true point guard, averaging 7.3 assists, which is up 0.6 from last year. He's taken 0.7 less threes at 6.1, while his three-point percentage dropped down 1.8% to 38.3. The only concern that I have is his defense. He's got the 15th worst defensive rating this past season, which was 118.2. Other than that, he's by far the most untouchable player on this roster, and I can honestly see him retiring as a Knick. Next, we got Cat. There's a lot to unpack here. Surprisingly, he's inside the top 15 for defensive rating at 110.3, which means whenever he's on the floor, that's how many opposing points the team allows per 100 possessions, which isn't terrible considering Jalen Williams, who's in first, sits at 107.3. However, he has the third most fouls by any player in 2024 and 25, sitting at 249 total over 72 games played. A lot of these fouls are stupid ticky-tack fouls, and it negatively affects the team because they need his presence on the floor. But when he's got 3 fouls in the first quarter, he's going to have to sit. He also has a tendency to not contest threes, which really bothers me, because in a league today dominated by shooting behind the arc, you have to be able to guard it. This coincides with him not hustling back often on defense, which I'm sure frustrates a lot of fans. But enough bashing, let's talk about what he does well. In his first season with his new team, he made his 5th appearance at the All-Star game, and this year was the first time he was selected as a starter. He's averaging 24.4 points per game and shooting 52.6% from the field on 16.9 shot attempts, all of which are up compared to last year. He shot the three at a blistering 42% on 4.7 attempts, the highest by any center this season, and puts him at 16th overall in three-point percentage. His free throw percentage did drop by 4.4 though, bringing it down to 82.9%. But other than that, the majority of his numbers are up, especially his rebounds, which were at 12.8, the most throughout his career and the second most in the league. So overall, I would say he had a pretty successful year, but is he going to stay? He's got quite the hefty contract next year, coming in at $53.1 million, but I think he definitely played like a $53 million man, so I think it's highly unlikely he gets moved. But if New York sees an enticing enough deal on the table for someone, say like Giannis, who only gets paid $1 million more than him next year, it's not impossible that they end up making it happen. Next up, Mikal Bridges. Went from being a great two-way player on the Suns, switching to the main offensive option on the Nets, and then going back to being a two-way player with the Knicks, although his defense has suffered a little bit. To elaborate, he had the 17th worst defensive rating this season at 118, the worst of his career. To put that into perspective, he hit 109 twice with the Suns, and in 2021 and 22 made a case for Defensive Player of the Year, coming second in voting behind Marcus Smart, who eventually ended up winning the award. Ever since joining the Nets, I feel like he left that out the window, solely focusing on offense. He did make 2 clutch steals in games 1 and 2 of the Celtics series in the playoffs, however, and I feel like that's a step in the right direction. For the fairest comparison, I'm going to use his stats before he got traded in 2022 and 23, since he had a similar role to the one he has currently. In 2024 and 25 with the Knicks, he averaged 17.6 points per game on 14.4 shot attempts, both of which rose, his points per game by 0.4 and his attempts by 0.8. His field goal percentage went up by 3.7 to 50%, but his three-point percentage went down by 3.3 to 35.4% on 5.6 attempts, the second most he's taken throughout his career. Additionally, he's gotten to the line much less, averaging 1.7 less free throw attempts at 1.4, while his percentage dropped by 8.3 all the way down to 81.4%. All in all, I think Mikal is the most likely to be moved out of all his starters, mainly because he's going into the last year of his contracts and the Knicks might not be willing to pick up the bill he's putting down. However, he's got good chemistry with fellow Villanova alumni Hart and Brunson, and could once again thrive defensively under a new coach with someone like Mike Brown. Not to mention, he hasn't missed a game since high school. I think that he could be moved, but also contributes enough to make the Knicks want to hold on to him. There is a possibility that he follows in Brunson's footsteps by taking a team-friendly contract, but only time will tell. Next, we got OG Anunoby, the other two-way forward that the Knicks traded RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley for to round out their defense in their starting five. This is the healthiest he's been since his rookie year, matching his career high of games played at 74, and has looked great in his first full year starting as a power forward. He had an okay year defensively with a rating of 114.5, the second worst of his career, while averaging 1.5 steals and 0.9 blocks. The best defensive rating he's had was in 2020 at 104.3, 10.2 less than what he has currently, and was ranked 8th in the NBA that season, so it's safe to say he's been focusing more on the offensive end of the floor. Speaking of, he had the best year of his career scoring-wise, averaging 18 points per game. His field goal attempts were up by 2.4 at 13.9, albeit his field goal percentage went down by 1.3, dropping to 47.6%. His three-point attempts went up by 0.9 to 6.2, while his three-point percentage dropped by 1 to 37.2%. This is the most that he's gotten to the charity stripe, though, throughout his career at 3.1 attempts while sinking 81% of those shots, rising by a whopping 5.7% compared to last year. This is by far the best year he's had offensively, with a career-high 118.3 rating, although he did sacrifice some of the defense in the process. But he's only 27 and has the potential to eventually become an all-star that thrives on both offense and defense. My only problem is his ball handling skills, but I think he's a cornerstone on this roster and essential to helping them win. Even though his contract is pretty hefty, coming in at $39.6 million, he's already contracted for the next 3 years and has more versatility on both ends of the floor in comparison to Mikal, so I think the organization definitely hangs on to him, making him one of the untouchables. Next up, you got Josh Hart, their glue guy who's all about the grit and grind. He's just outside the top 25 of top defensive rating at 112.1, while averaging the most steals in his career at 1.5. However, he does foul quite a bit. He's tied for the 14th most fouls this season with Jordan Poole, Keyshawn George, and George Niang at 201. I love the effort, but his defense is a little too aggressive and can end up keeping him off the floor. I will give him credit though, because they usually make him guard the bigs, and that can be a tall task, no pun intended. A testament to his hustle is that he's the minutes leader, averaging 37.6 a game while also grabbing 9.6 rebounds, and most rebounds averaged by a guard this season, bringing it up by 1.3 from last year. His rebounding average is so impressive that he's tied for 12th with Bam Adebayo, and not only that, but he also has the 11th most total rebounds at 737. Everyone above him is a center or forward. That says a lot about his character, always willing to throw his body on the line. Switching to his offense, he's got the 22nd most average assists with 5.9, which is up 1.8 from last year, and 14th most total assists, sitting at 453. He averaged 13.6 points per game, bringing it up by 4.2. He had 10 field goal attempts, which went up by 1.6, while shooting 52.5%, going up by an exceptional 9.1%. Threes have never been his strong suit, but he still brought up his percentage by 2.3 to 33.3% on 3.3 attempts. That's a lot of threes. He's gotten to the line 1.3 more times with 2.7 attempts, although his free throw percentage dropped by 1.5 to 77.6%, which isn't great. His contributions to the team have been major with a modest contract amount of $19.5 million. He's a fan favorite and shouldn't be on the trade block whatsoever in my opinion. So I expect him to pick up where he left off, whether that be in the starting five or off the bench, but he's definitely untouchable. Alright, next up we got Mitchell Robinson. He's a key contributor off the bench for the team, especially in the playoffs. He made impactful rebounds while boasting a defensive rating of 108.3, tied at 6th with Alperen Sengun and Defensive Player of the Year Evan Mobley, albeit it was a small sample size. He came back 65 games in and didn't miss a beat, even earning a starting spot over Josh Hart on certain occasions. He played all 18 games in the playoffs, one more than he did in the regular season, suggesting that his ankle injury is far behind him. In the playoffs and regular season, he averaged 4.9 points per game and 6.5 rebounds. Now, you might be thinking those numbers are small, but the impact of them were huge. To support that argument, he had an offensive rating of 143.3, which would be the highest in the league. However, since it was only in 35 games, it's unlikely that he would have sustained that meteoric number, but it just shows how much of an immediate impact he made when he rejoined the roster. His contract for next year is at $12.9 million, which is pretty steep for someone coming off the bench, not to mention he's in the last year of said contract. This makes him an attractive trade target because he's definitely going to want to get paid more since he played so well. The organization is most likely not willing to pay him more than he's already making, and considering how big of an impact he made, it's definitely piqued the interest of other organizations around the association, which is why I think he will probably be moved. Next up, we got another fan favorite, Miles McBride, aka Deuce.
McBride throws it up and knocks down the three.
A young and promising point guard at 24, who in my opinion plays more like a shooting guard despite his size. His role off the bench has become more prominent throughout the years and his potential to take a lot of weight off the starting unit, which is what they need. In just 24.9 minutes throughout 64 games played, he averaged 9.5 points per game, which went up by 1.2. On 8.5 attempts, which went up by 1.8, he shot a mediocre 40.6%, dropping by 4.6 compared to last year. His three-point percentage also dropped by 4.1 to 36.9%, which is still decent, but he's young and has room for error with a very team-friendly contract at just $4.3 million. All that being said, I can see him being thrown in a package with another player like Mitch or something, but I think the organization sees it through for the time being to let him develop, so I think it's highly unlikely that he goes anywhere. Next, I wanted to look at some potential trade targets for them this offseason, as well as what to expect, hence the name of the video. So the first target we got is Giannis. He's easily the biggest name on the trade market right now, and if the Knicks were somehow able to swap him with Cat, I don't see anything wrong with that, considering he's the best two-way forward in the league with roughly the same payroll. Next, we got KD. the second biggest name on the market, and is definitely on the table for them. His agent, Rich Kleiman, is a Knicks fan and has been begging for him to go to the Knicks for a while, so his wish could finally come true. If they do go down this route though, I would expect them to keep Cat and put a package of something like Mitch, Mikal, Deuce, and Kolek together, although it would sacrifice a lot of their depth, which is what they need to prioritize this offseason. Next, we got Naz Reid, a 6'9" forward that moves like a guard and former 6th Man of the Year. He would be a huge upgrade compared to Mitch offensively, but he's going to get an extension this summer, likely doubling his previous contract, which was roughly around the same value as Mitch's. So they'll probably stay away from him unless they decide to offload some contracts through trades and sign him. Next, we got Malik Beasley, an excellent three-point shooter that proved to be crucial to both Milwaukee and Detroit these past 2 seasons. He'll be an unrestricted free agent this summer after signing a 1-year, $6 million contract last year with the Pistons, and will be a hot target for most teams, one of them being the Knicks, who's in need of reliable scoring off the bench. Next, we got Sam Hauser, another phenomenal three-point shooter that has been essential to Boston's bench the past few seasons. However, they can't necessarily keep him considering they'll be $22.8 million over the second apron going into next season. Moving him makes sense for Boston because it cuts that number in half with his contract of $10 million, and is an attractive target for most teams in need of an efficient three-point shooter off the bench like the Knicks. Next, we got Keon Ellis, another great shooter from the three who's also phenomenal defensively. He's on the last year of his contract, albeit at only $2.3 million, and is exactly what the Knicks are looking for off the bench in my opinion. And lastly, we got Walker Kessler, a very promising young center with a team-friendly contract next year at just $4.8 million. He's a name to keep an eye on this summer because I think Utah plans on moving him. It just depends on their asking price, which is pretty steep. That price is at least 2 first-round picks, but for good reason. He's got a career average of 2.4 blocks in 3 seasons at just 23 years old. He also averaged a double-double last year with 11.1 points and an astounding 12.2 rebounds, so the potential is clearly there. The problem is, the Knicks already gave away 6 first-rounders for Bridges, so I highly doubt that they'll be sending out any more. Next, here's what to expect, in my opinion, coming from the team next season. It's looking more likely by the day that Jason Kidd is going to be their new head coach. It's an interesting choice in my opinion, considering he's just barely above a win-loss ratio of 500 at 516, with an all-time record of 362 and 339. However, he's a top 10 point guard of all time, with championship pedigree and plenty of other accolades. Not to mention he's had some quite ingenious plays.
I didn't know that J Kidd, that he ran to to get that timeout.
Get the tech. Woody always stood on the court. He be eating candy and shit. So he used to always go up to like the front thing and get candies and cough drops and shit before he like would call a timeout. So he was standing up getting one of them. And he was on the court. That nigga J Kidd, I was standing up. Like if you see the video, I'm standing up and I'm watching because it was like a real good game. And the nigga just ran in the wood, like boom, and fell and was like, that's a tech, he on the court. He's on the court.
Either way, he'll fit right in with the hustle and bustle of the city and could prove to be a great mentor to Brunson. Expect someone from the starting lineup to get moved. To improve their bench, the Knicks are definitely going to have to dump one of their bigger contracts, whether that be Mikal, Cat, or even Hart or OG, even though I think they're less likely to go. Now, this one could be a little bold, but don't be surprised if they end up claiming the 1 seed next season if they properly fill out their bench, especially under new leadership. The Celtics will likely fall out of the top 3 without Tatum, and the Cavs are likely to go under change as well, so the landscape is definitely going to be different. Don't be surprised if they don't land big players like KD or Giannis. The Knicks already have problems with their depth, and trading for one of these big stars wouldn't help that, even if Cat's included in one of those deals. And last but not least, expect them to retain a few of their current bench players such as Dolan Wright and Landry Shamet. Once they finally got their time to shine in the playoffs, they helped take a load off from the starting lineup and provided a big spark for them off the bench. At the end of the day, the Knicks have a bright future ahead of them and will be back in the playoffs again as championship contenders next year. It all hinges on them competently filling out their bench and getting a new coach that can help them make that next leap into their first finals in 26 years. But that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and let me know if you have any suggestions down in the comments. Any kind of criticism is always appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.